Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, 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 welcome. I know we're mixing up the time on you a little bit, just trying out some different things. But once again, would love feedback on whether you like us changing the time or if you like it a set time every single week. I know there's pros and cons, right? On the one hand, having it the same time every week makes it easy to schedule. But on the other hand, if you have a conflict during that time period, you miss out every single week. So we're just trying some different options for you. And we already got some great questions coming in. So we'll start with Vikas. I mostly see that execs are always trying to get a one-up on other execs. CISO blaming CIO, CIO blaming CFO or ops. How can a first-time CISO prep for such politics at the exec level? And then he says, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, my friend. The big thing in cybersecurity is to make sure that you align the responsibility with the authority. And it's a concept of risk transfer that many CSOs don't do a good job with. And what I'm referring to is in most companies, if there's a breach or a problem, the CISO is responsible. They're the one that gets fired. They're the one that gets in trouble. They're the one that gets on the hot seat. But the problem is they have no authority to fix it. So we've seen this all the time where a CISO will go to a business unit, say fulfillment, and say, listen, your system is not patched. You're using old JavaScript on the web page. It's vulnerable. It can be exposed. We did a pen test. We can get in. We can access all of the data. And this needs to be fixed. This is a high risk area. And they basically come back and say, no, we're too busy. We don't have the budget. We don't have the resources. We're not going to fix it. And you go back and say, no. You really need to fix this. And they're like, no, you're not in charge. Leave me alone. We're not fixing it. And you might do this 3 or 4 times. And then what happens? A breach happens. And of course, the VP of fulfillment doesn't own it in the meeting and say, yes, security told us and our bad. They're basically like, yeah, that's not our problem. That's security's problem. They should have fixed it. And then you're sitting there like, right? You get the blood's boiling because you're like, we've been telling you and you didn't listen. And now you throw us under the bus. So that's the big challenge, that whole authority responsibility issue. So what I always do, which is a shift that the execs don't like because they like it the current way. They like it the current way where they have all the authority, but none of the responsibility. But it doesn't work. So what you need to do as a CISO is socialize with the board and the CEO of going, listen, security is the honest broker. We're pointing out what the risks are to business units, but the business units are the ones that are responsible for ultimately fixing it. We'll give them the solution, but we don't have the authority. We can't force them to do it. So now we've always talked about our 4-column briefing chart for the board, which is what is the risk, likelihood of occurring, cost if it occurs, and cost to fix it. Well, now what we do, because now we're getting into advanced ninja skills, which I love Vikas bringing up. Now we put on the business unit and the priority. So now we go in and say, okay, this is a risk. It has a 90% chance of occurring. If it occurs, it'll cost $5 million. We're recommending $300K to fix it. And this is assigned to fulfillment. And we've made fulfillment aware of it. We've notified them 4 times, but we just want you to realize that this is a current risk. And in our opinion, this is the number 1 risk. Now, they're not going to like it, right? Fulfillment's not going to appreciate you did it, but you did notify them. You did give them a heads up. You did tell them that this is going to be the top risk if they do not fix it. And then if they choose not to, you're now shifting the responsibility to the accountability. Now, you're not going to win friends this way, right? Eventually you will, because what will happen is in the beginning, they will feel like you're throwing them under the bus and they won't like it. That's okay. But over time, what the execs are going to say is, okay, fulfillment, this is 300K. If we give you that money, will you fix it? And now what you're actually doing is you're increasing their budget and you're getting them the resources they need. So over time, after doing this model for 6 or 9 months, all the business units will love you because you're getting resources that they normally wouldn't be able to get. But just realize in the beginning, it'll be a little bit of a bumpy road because they're not going to like how you're doing it. But it's the only way to win this game. Otherwise, as long as you have the responsibility and they have the authority, you're going to lose every day of the week. Next question. What's your perspective of cyber law from a CISO viewpoint? How important is it for a CISO to get conservative on that? It's an interesting path because legality is probably one of the most important areas in cyber. Because there's a lot of laws, there's a lot of regulations, right? There's the new CCPA. If you're in the United States, there's, of course, GDPR. If you're over in Europe, and there's a lot of others in Australia, Singapore. And all of a sudden, you're getting into situations where security could be incurring legal liability for themselves or for the company or for the executives without even realizing it, because the laws are so obscure and change and all over the place. So what I always say is cybersecurity shouldn't be proficient with the law, but they should know enough when to bring in chief legal counsel. When I was CISO at telecoms and banks and other areas, my best friend was chief legal counsel. Like, we actually eventually had our offices right next to each other. And you always have that person that when you're in the office around 11:30, 12, if you don't have a lunch meeting, you go, hey, you want to go grab some lunch? And they go, sure. And you walk over and you get a sandwich or a burger or a salad or whatever it is you're eating. And you talk for 15, 20 minutes and then you go back and have your lunch. That person for a CISO needs to be chief legal counsel. You can go a couple of weeks without talking to the CEO. I like to talk to them once or twice a month, if not more often. But that it doesn't have to be every week. Chief legal counsel, you should be sending emails, you should be texting, you should be communicating. They should literally be your best friend in the company. That they should be the people you're hanging out with, you're talking with the most, you're associating with the most, because the reality is legal and cyber are the two most critical areas to a company today. Legal is making sure that the company doesn't do anything illegal or out of line that gets themselves into trouble. And cyber is the biggest area where you're running your company, you're running your domain, where most legal issues reside. So you need to know enough to know when to bring in legal counsel, but you definitely don't want to become a legal. I mean, that will consume your life. And not only will it consume your life, but you'll get yourself in a lot of trouble, because if you pretend to be an attorney and you're not, the attorney's going to get very mad at you, and chief legal is going to get really angry going, Eric, why in the world did you make that decision? That's a legal decision, and you have no authority to make that. Why didn't you involve us? So I find that when CISOs try to learn the law or know the law, it ends up getting in more trouble, because then they think they're an expert and they are not. You need to know when to call legal, when to bring in legal, when to get legal advice. But your job is not to advise in any way, shape, or form on the law, regardless of how much or how little you might know. Okay, I always get concerned when I don't get my buenos dias from my man Vic. So we got buenos dias from Atlanta. Yeah, we are switching up the times, like I said. Would love your feedback on whether we like that, whether we don't like that, whether it's good, whether it's bad, how that plays out. And Vic also has a question. What is the name of the public financial SEC document you said where you can find on a company to better understand the financials, it's called edgar.sec.gov. At least that's what it used to be. They're always switching up the domain names, but it's Edgar, EDGAR. Edgar is I don't know where they came up with Edgar. I'm sure it's an acronym for something, but it's edgar.sec.gov, where basically you can look up any company. It's it's where all their quarterly and yearly financials, you can search, you can scan, you can do all those things. So that's essentially for any publicly traded company. You can find out that information. And then for privately held companies, edgar.sec.gov is free. For privately held companies, it's a little trickier. Honestly, in most cases, it's the craziest thing. But I was just doing this for another case where I put in the company. It wasn't publicly traded. It was a private company. And I put the name of the company in to Google and just put company financials, and they gave me all the details. So a lot of times Google will actually have that info, and you can find it out that way. If you're doing this as a full line of business, there is a commercial tool called Zoom Info. It's a little, it could be anywhere from 15 to 40K, depending on the size of your business. So it's more of a sales lead gen tool, but it correlates and analyzes data on publicly and privately held companies. So you can actually go in and use that tool to be able to get the financials for privately held companies. I was surprised. For kicks and giggles, I put in Secure Anchor, and they actually had our financials, and it was pretty close. I mean, it was a little on the lower side, but I mean, it was pretty close to what it was. So that's another paid tool, but a tool out there for you to be able to find that info. Then we have Darren is in the house. Good morning. What's the best way for an experienced cyber pro to learn about business or government finance so they can prepare to serve in the C-suite? I think that's similar to Vic's question, where for commercial companies or businesses, if it's publicly traded, then it's going to be edgar.sec.gov. If it's going to be government, then you would go to that government agency, and they also always have their financials because government has to make it public. So state and federal, if you go to, for example, Department of Transportation.gov, there's a section on their website of sort of what their budget is, what the breakdown is, what the money allocates to, and all that level of detail, because anything that's government funded has to be public. So that's all public documents, public information that's out there. So there are, once again, paid services that you can pay for a lookup. So anywhere from $99 to $300, you can go in and they'll do all that research for you. But honestly, because it's so easy nowadays with Google and the websites and the information that's out there, it's pretty simple for you to be able to find out that information or find out those financials. Pretty straightforward. So we got another question. You speak about data breaches and how CISOs should expect them. How do we detect a breach? What technical background should we have? Yeah, so the whole premise is the concept in cybersecurity is prevention is ideal, but detection is a must. So you do want to try to prevent attacks as much as possible, but you need to recognize that it's going to happen, right? The analogy I always give, because when I go to companies and I'm like, you cannot be 100% secure. You cannot prevent all attacks. You are going to get broken into. You are going to get compromised. They don't like that. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean we can't be secure? No. I didn't say you can't be secure. I said you can't be 100%. Right? There's a difference there. And the analogy I always give is with health. Is there anybody that's on this call or anybody you know that is 100% healthy, that is the perfect specimen of a human and never, ever, ever gets sick? Of course not. Right? That's crazy. Every human has some issues, right? None of us are perfectly healthy, right? Everybody at some point, it might be minor, it might be a cough once in a while, right? Not a great time for me to talk about that, but it's going to happen. That doesn't mean you're not healthy, and that doesn't mean you can't live a long life, right? It just means it's an issue. Now, if you're getting sick every month and you're getting put in the hospital, yeah, we could probably say you're not healthy. But if you're getting sick once every 2 to 3 years and you're just a little tired for a day or two, but you don't really miss work and you're able to rock and roll, we say you're healthy, right? We say you're super healthy on that front. So that's the mindset with companies, that they need to recognize that the law of cybersecurity is as soon as you add functionality, you decrease security. So that's just a law that you have to know. So if any system is functional, which it is, you're going to have vulnerability. So the question is, how do we detect it? The way you detect it is by looking for anomalies. In my opinion, anomaly detection done correctly with normalization is by far the best way to catch an attack. And here's why. If an attacker does everything a normal person does, exactly the same behavior, then it's not an attack, right? It's normal behavior, right? Because they're identical. For something to be an attack, they have to do something out of the norm of a normal user. So, for example, I log in to my account from Virginia, from my house. So, unless somebody breaks into my house and kidnaps me and uses my computer and logs in from Virginia, which I guess could happen, but that's like a really, really far-fetched example. I mean, if somebody's logging in from Virginia from my residence, it's probably Eric. So if an attacker is going to break in, they're going to come from a different location, an anomaly. They're going to probably go in a different time of day, an anomaly. They're probably going to have 15 or 20 failed logins, an anomaly. They're probably going to try to access records and information that I normally don't access, anomaly. So once again, it's understanding what is normal behavior within a network, and then being able to have automated software, which exists, to be able to detect those anomalies is really that best way. Same thing with compromise within a network. When somebody breaks into a client system and then they start doing lateral movement and setting up pivot points across the network, they are doing things that a normal computer doesn't do. So if you understand the normal traffic flows, if you understand the normal logins, the location, the access, the frequency, the records, and you build those profiles of normal activity, then anything that falls outside is going to be an anomaly. Now, yes, humans do commit anomalies, right? I do travel. So I do once in a while log in from California or Chicago or Florida. But then what happens in those cases? The system detects it as an anomaly, and they send me an alternative two-factor to my phone. They say, we notice you're coming in from a new location. Please go to your computer, confirm, and go to your phone and text in the one-time password, right? So they do a validation or verification when there's an anomaly to confirm whether Eric's committing the anomaly or an attacker's committing the anomaly. So to me, the best way to do detection is really going in and doing that anomaly detection of understanding what's normal and what's not, and then adding an additional authentication or notification features when those anomalies are detected. We have a good morning. CISO takes ownership. We have Labo Mexicano. Looks like making a lot of statements. Awesome, awesome, great feedback. Taking notes. Thanks for everything you do. My pleasure, my friend. Oh, excellent. He answered. Edgar is the electronic data gathering, analysis, and retrieval system. I figured there had to be an acronym that they just didn't name it after some dude named Edgar, right out there, that there was actually a reason for that. So excellent. And then just like professional poker players mitigate the luck aspect by consistently making mathematical superior decisions and therefore winning in the long run. Exactly. It's the same thing. Everything has some level of predictability. Like when people play poker, they go, it's the luck of the cards. Yeah, but there's actually a mathematical, when you look at the cards and the likelihood and knowing that there's 52 cards in the deck and you have 5. I mean, there's ways that you can predict at some level the risk factor. Now, do you sometimes make a bad risk decision? Yes. And that's why they don't always win. But the better you get at it, the less mistakes and the better you get at the predictive modeling. And that's when you become high-end professional poker player by continually winning on those fronts. So actually today, I don't know if it's the time. We'll have to keep track of the time, but we actually have, those are all the questions. So I'll give a few more minutes to see if there's any other questions, but I'll just talk about a few things we're working on. I know many of you have been interested in that CISO cert, which is everything you need to be a world-class CISO. It's over 40 hours of knowledge transfer. It's 6 months of group coaching, and it's a private peer group. And that retail price, what we were selling it at end of last year, was $12K. But I really want to make a difference. We really want to get that out. So we're running a promotion in February right now. Not sure how long it'll last, right? It's selling really, really good. But we actually have that discounted down to $7,500. So it's around 40%, if my math is correct, discount on that. So if that's something you've been interested in, we do have payment plans or options or things you can get involved. But yeah, now is a great time because sometime in the next couple of weeks, it's going to jump back up out to the original retail price. But I just feel like February is my birthday. I want to give everyone birthday gifts, just like everyone's giving me some birthday gifts. So we wanted to discount that down. So if that's something you're interested in, you definitely want to reach out to us or go to our website or sign up. But that's one of the big specials we're running. And then other thing is we have our shorter course, How to Get Your First Job as a CISO, where I actually break down our 4-step process that is proven. I've worked with companies. I work with HR departments. I know the process they go through in hiring a CISO. So I break that down for you. And we're actually running it the last time live in 2 weeks. So if that's something, and that's, I believe it's a bundle price of $750. So you get the pre-recorded so you can listen to it as much as you want. And then you get live with me where I'm going to ask questions, interact, go through the whole process with you. After February, it will only be pre-recorded. I'm not going to be doing that live anymore. So if you want to get it live where you can ask me questions in real time, you can interact. I'll be there right there in Zoom. We'll be able to interact live with written and verbal questions. And trust me, that's a really nice feature. We cover a lot of content and there's offline Q&A, but having to get me live is a really, really nice bonus. So I would definitely, if I was in your shoes and you're looking to become a CISO, whether it's immediately or even in 6 or 9 months, because after that, it's going to be pre-recorded, which is still awesome. It's still awesome course. You still get a lot of data, but getting live is always more fun and more interactive. So that's something else you want to take advantage of. If you want to get the last time I'm actually going to be doing that live, that's a bundled price of $750, and that's going to be not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday. So once again, just reach out, either info@secure-anchor.com or ecole@secure-anchor.com. My team or myself will get back to you, or you can visit our website for more information or more details on that. So like I said, we got a lot of great specials going on in February, a lot of great stuff happening here. Like I said, I'm here to answer questions. It looks like we have a shorter crew here, so my team's going to monitor. Maybe 10 o'clock is not the best time. Right? Maybe 9:30 was a little better because we don't have as many folks. But I appreciate you joining me. Next week, I'm not sure what time it's going to be, but please check social media. We'll jump on that front. Yeah, Rachel's putting some of the links in there if you want to get access to that. Otherwise, I appreciate you joining me. And this one will just make it a little shorter call because there's less questions, but you can always ask questions on our videos. You can always get in contact with us at info at secure-anchor, or you can reach me directly at ecole@secure-anchor.com. Always love hearing from you. Please pass on the news to folks about the podcast if you like it and enjoy it. Continue to follow us on social, and I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you. Whoop. Okay, coming in. We have a question. The nick of time. Mubashir, you caught me, so I'll let you jump in here. So go ahead and type up that question. He's like, wait, I have a question. Right? Awesome. We got plenty of time. So we'll give a minute or two for him to go in and type in his question. He's basically a security manager, so the suspense is building, right? What could the question be, right? Where could this be going, right? But once again, as we're waiting for the question to come in, what is your goal for February? What is something that if you achieved in February would be a game changer for you? And remember, all things are interrelated. So it might be health, right? You might want to lose 5 or 10 pounds. You might want to start going to the gym. You might want to start journaling. You might want to start improving your relationship or your home condition, or time with your kids, or start going on date nights with your significant other. Or it might be in business. You might want to go and start doing videos, start doing a podcast, start writing a book. But the point is, we can accomplish more than we realize when we get focused and we get targeted. So if we go in and we get focused and target, we can accomplish a lot. Otherwise, we tend to just keep doing what we've always been doing, right? And we don't really get there. So I would say, what are your clear targets? The question, it looks like I'm a security manager and I'm looking for a CISO. Here we go. And I have trouble sometimes translating tech speak to business to speak to senior managers, sort of log for center recent security incidents and mitigation, because there's a lot of tech. Take the tech out. I know for technical people, you're like, but how? Real simple. One of our systems got compromised and somebody is able to destroy all of our records. Let me put that in financial terms. Those records are needed to run our business. And for every day those records aren't available, we lose $400K worth of business. So if those records do get compromised and they're not available for 5 days, that's $2 million that we lose. So in that case, we want to spend $20K a month to be able to prevent that. That's how you go non-tech. So remember my briefing chart. What could happen? Non-technical. We could lose our data. Our data could be corrupt. We could lose customers. We could have reputational damage. Notice what could happen. It's non-technical. Likelihood of it happening, cost if it happens, and cost to fix it. That's all. Now I know if you're technical, you struggle because you're like, but no, Eric, they need. No, they don't. They really don't need to know the technical details. They don't need to know the nitty-gritties about whether it's a buffer overflow or a SQL injection, or it's a ransomware or an extortion. They don't care. We care. Technical people care, but the business execs don't. So you really want, even though you think it's important because it's important to you, it's not. No tech talk. What could happen in business language? Likelihood of it occurring, cost of it occurs, cost to fix it. Now, last thing, those numbers are estimates, because I also see technical people that like exact. Well, Eric, I have no idea what the likelihood. Is it 50? Is it 70 or is it 90? Well, it's probably more like 90. Great, do 90. But Eric, it's not 90. It might be 8. I don't care. Right? We're talking qualitative, not quantitative. It's not exact numbers. So whether it should be 85, 88, 90, 92, 90 is close enough. Don't overthink it. You don't have to get it exact. This isn't a math problem. We just want to get it close enough so they can see. So that's really the trick there. And yes, it's uncomfortable for techie people to do this because they're used to exact mathematical technical language. But you need to remember that executives, that's why they have you. That's why they have the team. They don't care about that. They just want to know estimates. What could happen? Likelihood of occurrence, cost of it occurs, and cost to fix it. So if you stick with that basic framework, you'll be in really good shape. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have an amazing, powerful week. And remember, get very clear. What is the one thing that if you accomplished over the next 2.5 weeks could change everything for you? Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.